Prof, thank you for your time. You're welcome. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, and thank you for this singular opportunity to address the issues raised.
Right. So maybe to understand you better, what exactly is your issue or your problem with the placement system, claiming that the private schools have been left out?
Okay, thank you. The issue simply is that we have a system of placement where students who attend public schools are given a head start when it comes to placement into Category A senior high schools. What we mean by saying they are given a head start is that they are allocated 30% of all vacancies before the rest of the 70% is shared on merit between public and private school students. And we believe that we must have equity, we must have fairness, and that there should be no discrimination of any sort when it comes to placement into top-tier senior high schools in the country.
If you can explain further, how do you mean that you must have equity? Because the public schools and the private schools do not operate on this equity levels.
Well, I don't know what you mean by they don't operate on equity levels. They write the same BEC, the same syllabuses are rolled out in both sectors, the same questions are set, and they write the same exams. So why would we have a
But conditions in the schools are different. What private schools require of their students is a little different from what public schools require from their students. You cannot say that they are the same. Then if that's the case, then we don't have a reason classifying some schools as private schools and some schools as public schools, if you want to say they are the same.
I mean, what I mean by the same is that it's the same standards that are expected of them, isn't it? It's the same standards. That's why I said it's the same syllabus, the same exams are set for both sectors. And you see, people often think that a private school is necessarily a very well-resourced school with infrastructure, furniture, teaching and learning aids that are top standard. What few do not know is that we have 70% of all private schools are even what we categorize as low-fee private schools. These low-fee private schools are located in deprived areas where they are denied infrastructure and furniture, teaching, learning aids. I mean, the conditions there in some of those schools are even worse than the public schools. And some of these schools are located in areas where you don't have a single public school within view. So the private investor in that case is is looking at the good of children, getting opportunities for children to go to school rather than making profits. You see, this whole thing, I thought that with the greatest of respect, the running mate, NPP running mate would have stayed away from it. Because you see, it's a tacit admission that the public school system has failed. And I can tell you that many public school teachers are very embarrassed when you posit the fact that their children cannot compete on the same level of private schools. And that public schools will have to be given a certain allocation before they can get access to top-tier senior high schools. Many are very embarrassed because it simply means that they cannot, when it comes to fair competition, in spite of all the infrastructure, in spite of the top-level qualification that teachers in public schools have, in spite of all government is claiming to do, they are just admitting that on a fair ground, public school children cannot compete with private school children. And that's a shame as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, I'm not sure if I clearly understand where you're coming from, but are you saying that we've gotten to a point where private schools are claiming for recognition that government resources must be allocated on the same level as private schools. Is that what you're saying? Because in my honest opinion, I don't think that you are using the resources challenges of some of these private schools, as you've earlier explained, as reasons why government must classify private schools to be on the same level with government schools.
I mean, what is government's argument for allocating 30% to private schools? Is it not the fact that to public schools? Is it not the fact that the public schools are deprived? Is it not based on the fact that children who attend the public schools are from low socioeconomic background? So the point I'm making is that it is not only children at the public level who come from low socioeconomic backgrounds. We equally have a lot of children who attend private schools in very deprived areas from worse backgrounds than some children who attend the public sector.
That's where my argument is. My argument is that where you are thinking that the reasons for which government is considering government schools must be applied to private schools because you have similar problems. That is not justifiable.
Exactly. But that is. I mean, if you are arguing that those who attend the public sector are deprived, I'm simply saying those in the private sector are equally deprived.
I mean, it's like a household
must be used for measuring both.
Well, it's like a household taking care of 7 children, and the children are hungry, and the household says that, well, I am responsible for providing your meals, so it's time to give you meals. And you're saying that because the next household also has children who are hungry, they should also be considered. That's the point you're trying to make. But the point is, this household has a responsibility of taking care of its own first before any other extras can be considered.
Okay, so there is no other household. The Ministry of Education is the father of 2 children, children of public and children of private schools. The Ministry of Education doesn't have the exclusive duty of taking care of only public school children, as if the public school children belong to the ministry, the private school children belong to some other persons. Absolutely not. The ministry has a responsibility for all Ghanaian children, be they public or private. So this whole issue of, let me allocate to my household, if there is now excess, I can think about the other household, doesn't exist at all. It doesn't.
So how do you welcome the criticism of the Vice President, I mean the running mate of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, Vice President?
Well, I'll think that it is very much unjustifiable. As Education Minister, GNAPS and other unions have met him many times discussing these same issues. And he was very adamant in refusing us an opportunity to be allocated our fair share of placements. And today, as we speak, as running mate, I thought that he would by now have repented and into the fold. But if he is criticizing us for going to Shiraj to seek fairness and to end discrimination, I wonder on what tangent he wants us to have this whole discussion. Besides, you see, the whole system is fraught with a lot of corruption as we speak. Many parents will attest to the fact that some even pay outrageous amounts now to be placed. So we should be looking at the whole placement system and trying to see how we can revamp it, right, how we can change it, how we can make it fairer and better for all Ghanaian children, irrespective of whether they belong to the public or to the private sector.